Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome to another episode of World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Today's video, once again, sponsored by Audible. You can start listening to audiobooks today with a free 30-day Audible trial, which comes with full access to thousands and thousands of all-you-can-listen audiobooks, original entertainment, and podcasts, all included in the Plus catalogue. Just visit audible.com/jingles or text jingles to 500 500. This month's audiobook recommendation, which remember you can get for free with your monthly Audible credit, is a mammoth undertaking, 33 hours of content from one of my favourite historians, former Falklands War journalist Max Hastings, and it is Vietnam, an epic tragedy, 1945 to 1975.
The struggle for Vietnam, a poor Southeast Asian country the size of California, comprising mountains, jungles, and paddies, which enchant 21st century tourists but were uncongenial to 20th century Western warriors, lasted 3 decades and cost between 2 and 3 million lives. In the eyes of the world, and even those of the communist Chinese and Soviet armorers, for the first 20 years it was a marginal affair. During its last phase, however, the war seized the imagination, roused the dismay and indeed revulsion of hundreds of millions of Western people, while destroying one US president and contributing to the downfall of a second.
Over 33 hours of audiobook here. You certainly can't claim that you don't get value for money when you get yourself a Max Hastings audiobook, and all of it is excellent. Max Hastings enjoys the reputation of being one of the world's preeminent modern historians for a very, very good reason. And new members can try this audiobook and all of Audible free for 30 days. Just visit audible.com/jingles or text jingles to 500 500. Meanwhile, here in the Tier 6 Premium US Navy Standard Class battleship, the USS Arizona, this is Skidoo Man 1990. The Standard Class battleships were a standard US Navy interwar battleship design. They were slow, heavily armed, and with enough armour to resist the firepower of their own guns. What this means in World Warships is that the USS Arizona, with its 26mm of bow, stern and deck plating, can bounce armour-piercing shells from the same 14-inch caliber guns that the USS Arizona carries herself. But that armour will be overmatched by 15-inch caliber guns or higher. Effectively, that means that when she's top tier, she only really has to worry about being overmatched if there are ships like Warspite or Queen Elizabeth on the enemy team, and today there are not. That doesn't mean she's immune to 14-inch armour-piercing shells, it just means that if she's angled, she can bounce 14-inch armour-piercing shells without having to worry about them overmatching her armour. She also has one of the highest hit point pools amongst Tier 6 battleships with 57,000 health. She has a heavy broadside of 12 14-inch guns with reasonable accuracy and dispersion, and despite having a horrible top speed of only 21 knots, she does have a very tight turning circle. Her anti-aircraft firepower is bad, however, even by Tier 6 standards, and there is a carrier in play in this particular Tier 6 battle. Skidoo's team have the Russian Tier 6 Serov, and the enemy team have the US Navy Tier 6 USS Ranger, who's just been spotted, sailing straight towards the enemy. Which means the enemy team are probably not going to have the US Navy Tier 6 Ranger for very long. Shots out, 12 14-inch armour-piercing shells, scratch one flat top. So that's a good start. Skidoo Man, however, is only just getting started. Although the Ranger's torpedo bombers look like they're coming in for some revenge, but then again, even though this ship has a very slow top speed of only 21 knots, it does have a very tight turning circle. Although not quite tight enough, he's probably going to take both of those. Yes, he did. It kind of looks like he delayed the turn halfway through, which led to him taking both of those torpedoes instead of just one. Still, he does have a lot of hit points to play around with, although you really don't want to be wasting them like that. Shots out against the New Mexico, who does manage to go undetected, so we don't exactly see the impact, but if you pay attention to his damage counter in the top right, Some good solid hits there. Looks like an extra 13,000 damage there against the New Mexico. Suddenly, a wild Königsberg appears. Oh yes, tier 5 light cruisers. Crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside. They are notoriously vulnerable ships. The first casualty of this match was an Omaha, which, like the Königsberg, and pretty much every other light cruiser in the game at tier 5, is effectively made out of citadels. Skidoo looking around for the next target, and at the moment there doesn't really appear to be anything better than the Hwanghae, or however you pronounce the name of that tier 6 Pan-Asian light cruiser. And it is also a light cruiser, although it's not tier 5. The Omaha over there, however, definitely is a tier 5 light cruiser, and look at the broadside he is giving. I mean, you can basically citadel the Omaha from any angle with 14-inch armor piercing shells, but giving a broadside like that is just asking for a paddling. Skidoo adjusts his aim since the Omaha appeared to be trying to reverse, which effectively meant that at the moment he fired it was dead in the water, and yep. Like I said, tier 5 light cruisers, made out of citadels, crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside. Next up, he's got a choice. The New Mexico, remember, is also a tier 6 standard class battleship, which means it's resistant, if angled, to 14-inch armor piercing shells, as is Skidoo himself, which is why he turned in, foregoing the chance to shoot with the 2 rear turrets in order to angle against the New Mexico's 14-inch armor piercing. But after firing, and before Skidoo could bring those 2 rear turrets into bear, the New Mexico started angling in return. The Graf Spee, however, is just completing a U-turn and is given a nice big fat broadside to shoot at. So there's another citadel. Skidoo's up to 70,000 damage done. The wild Königsberg, who appeared earlier, finds out the hard way that his armour is just as ineffective against 14-inch armour piercing shells from any angle as the armour on the Omaha. Probably trying to get in behind the island in order to get his 6-kilometre range torpedoes away. But the New Mexico replied to that with a big fat nope. Again, the New Mexico is well angled against Skidoo's guns. But at some point, he's going to have to turn away. While he's waiting for that to happen, I mean, the Graf Spee isn't given a completely flat broadside, but it's flat enough. Let's see what happens to these 12 14-inch armor-piercing shells. You know, at some point, after that happens to them often enough, you'd think that these cruiser captains would learn. Just hopefully not today. Meanwhile, the New Mexico's in a lot of trouble. He's run out of friends and he's horribly overextended, but he knows that if he turns to escape, he's going to have to give broadside to somebody, which is exactly what Skidoo was waiting for, but then the enemy New Mexico was taking so much damage from the friendly New Mexico down to the south that Skidoo realised he could finish him off with a superstructure shot. So there's kill number 4. Which means that the Hwanghae and the Mackinson over there have a very difficult decision to make, because it means they are now the only 2 ships left defending their cap circle, and the Mackinson appears to be making the decision, screw the cap circle, I'm getting the hell out of here. And he's also giving broadside. So, shots out. Oh. I feel vaguely cheated. And again, that was only 2 of the turrets. Let's see what he can do with the 2 rear turrets. And shots out. Come on, baby. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. Well, the carrier and the friendly New Mexico are both going for that Mackinson, and they both score solid hits, but Skidoo Man does not, which is kind of disappointing. Even more disappointing is this shot from the rear turret at the enemy Hwanghae, which you'd have expected would have finished him off after he got bitch slapped by the friendly New Mexico and lost almost all of his health. But it looks like RNGesus, at least for the moment, is no longer answering Skidoo Man's prayers. Meanwhile, the Mackinson, because he doesn't want to be given broadside to a pair of battleships, has turned. Unfortunately, he's turned straight into an island and run himself aground. The Hwanghae, however, can still be citadel from just about any angle, if you hit it right. Skidoo Man, recognising that torpedoes were coming, turned in to avoid, which means he can shoot at the Mackinson with the 2 rear turrets. And since you can't see the Hwanghae for the moment anyway, thanks to its smokescreen, and the Mackinson is firing back at him with its 350mm guns, he chooses the Mackinson. And again, it's a very, very disappointing result, with what looks like only one shot hitting and that bouncing. So now it's the turn of the two front turrets. The Hwang Hei is momentarily visible, but he's already popped his torpedoes, and so he's no immediate threat. The Mackinson, however, is. So Skidoo Man once again swings the nose around to improve his chances of bouncing the Mackinson's 350mm armour piercing, and gives him the good news from the two front turrets. And there is the Kraken unleashed, and kill number 5. Skidoo Man's down to about 30,000 health, but he's only now using the second of his 5 available heals. And time is running out for the Hwang Hei, who, let's face it, against a pair of Tier 6 battleships only really has his torpedoes, unless he wants to shoot and give his position away and get shot back at. And the last time he did that, the New Mexico shaved off more than half of his health. And Skidoo Man, well, he doesn't sink him, does shave off a respectable 5,000 with that initial salvo. The second salvo, of course, lost target lock as the Hwang Hei went undetected, so he manages to escape extinction for a few more precious minutes. He couldn't resist taking a shot at HMS Devonshire over there, which revealed his position again. And, well, I don't know, the timing was pretty good, because he is about to slip into cover behind this island and go undetected once again. There was a brief couple of seconds of target lock there, which Skidoo Man took the opportunity to unload another 14-inch salvo at him, but he's gotten away with it. At least for now. Enemy cap circle up ahead. The team do have a 100-point lead. Oh, there's the Hwang Hei. He's managed to get into cover behind an island. Or has he? Is he going to get detected? Skidoo Man, waiting for it. I mean, he could be shooting at the Texas. But the Texas is angled. Come on, where did you go? Somebody's going to spot him at some point. There he is. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. He's doing all right, you know. I mean, he's plotting a good course there, trying to make maximum effective use of the islands. But Skidoo Man only really has to get lucky the once. And there's kill number 6. I think it was probably worth it for the Hwang Hei though, because he did manage to sink the Devonshire, and with the amount of health that he had remaining, that was probably the best outcome that he could hope to achieve. Meanwhile, the enemy Dido has put paid to the friendly October Revolution down to the south, which means the kills are now even, and there's only a roughly 20-point difference in the scores as well, although that's going to start changing as Skidoo Man slips into the enemy cap circle. Now, he can get shots over the island against the Texas over there, but the Texas is too close to the island to be able to do the same to him. However, the Texas was angled, so he doesn't do a huge amount of damage. And the team just lost another ship. The Janwei has now gone down, so it's 4 against 3, and the enemy team are now ahead on points, despite the fact that Skidoo Man is in the enemy cap circle. And the Texas is clearly gunning for him. Although he doesn't stand much chance of immediately sinking him, he can at least reset his capture progress. Once again, Skidoo is well angled. The Texas is kind of not. Although it's kind of angled enough as it rushes to get into cover behind the island there to avoid any return fire from Skidoo Man, which it succeeds in doing. And right now, the Texas is the only enemy ship that's actually in range. Although the friendly carrier has managed to pull a kill back by sinking the Dido who killed the October Revolution earlier. As for what happens next, it's true that Skidoo Man's team are ahead on points, although not by much, and as long as he sits inside this cap circle, the enemy team aren't gaining any points as long as they're not sinking any other ships. So while there may very well be an element of trying to win harder here, and I am constantly telling you lot, stop throwing away safe wins in order to try to win harder. Skidoo Man is not sitting on a safe win here. He's never going to win by capping because he's too big, slow and obvious a target and far too easy to reset. He's got nothing to shoot at in that cap circle. And while he's in there, there are all kinds of islands down to the south that the enemy team can hide behind and reset him at will. And the situation has now been reversed with the enemy team in his cap circle, so he straps his man pants on and goes for it and catches the Texas What is honestly the worst possible moment for the Texas, who probably wasn't expecting to see an Arizona charging him down. He tries to angle away, realizes he's going to run into the island, attempts to correct his course, just too late, runs into the island anyway, and is now a sitting duck. I mean, look at this. Skidoo Man slows down because it's going to take his guns a while to reload, and he doesn't want to overshoot the target and give the Texas's rear guns an opportunity to paddle his broadside. Finishes the Texas off. It's now 3 against 2. That's his 7th kill. He's at nearly 150,000 damage. As long as the friendly carrier is in play, the enemy team are never going to successfully be able to win by capping. They're constantly going to be getting spotted and harassed and reset, if not by the carrier, then by the New Mexico. Skidoo Man doesn't want to get stuck on the wreck of the Texas, but, well, the Arizona does have a very tight turning circle. He's able to do that quite comfortably. And now, instead of sitting in the enemy cap circle, hemmed in by islands to the south, behind which the enemy ships could quite easily take cover and burn him down as he fruitlessly tries to cap, he's able to use the islands, although with 27,000 health and 3 heals remaining, he doesn't really need them, in order to turn the tables on and do the same to the enemy team, who are still... Well, I don't think they're trying to win by capping anymore. And, oh wait, that Omaha. Oh, he spotted it just at the last second and was able to turn in. Although he still took an overpen and a penetration. And probably thinks he's quite safe now, because he's now nose in against the New Mexico. But the New Mexico's 14-inch armor-piercing shells can completely overmatch the Omaha's armor from any angle, punched right through his nose, and citadeled him from the front, which just leaves the enemy, New Mexico, who's completely given up any attempt to try to win this one by capping, and because there is still a carrier in play, has no hope whatsoever of being able to go undetected, and because he's outnumbered, he cannot effectively angle against the 14-inch armor-piercing shells of both the friendly New Mexico up to his north, and Skidoo Man's 14-inch armor-piercing shells from the USS Arizona over here to the east. Oh, you didn't want to turn that way. You were at least marginally angled against Skidoo Man's shots until you turned to the right, at which point, yeah, that was a paddling. And because Skidoo Man neglected to send in a post-battle results screen, that means that once again, at no extra charge to you, it's time for one of my world-famous post-battle results screens. 10 citadels, 8 kills, and 163,000 damage for Skidoo Man 1990 in the Tier 6 Premium USS Arizona. Hope you've enjoyed today's video, folks, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.